Welcome to Hello Talk English Pod.
Welcome to Hello Talk English Pod. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Hello Talk. I'm Yumi.
Hi, I'm Clem.
Today's lesson is about the book Pride and Prejudice. Let's have a listen to the introduction. Pride and Prejudice is not simply a novel. Rather, it is a fan favorite that transcends generations. The romance novel was written by Jane Austen in 1813. Mr. Bennet of the Longbourn estate has 5 daughters, but his property is entailed and cannot be inherited by any of his daughters. His wife has no fortune, so it is imperative that at least one of the girls marries well in order to support the others upon his death. The novel revolves around the importance of marrying for love, not simply for money, despite the social pressures to make a good, wealthy match. The introduction starts out by saying Pride and Prejudice is not simply a novel. Rather, it is a fan favorite that transcends generations. So a fan favorite is just meaning that it's popular. People like it, right? For the fans, it's a favorite kind of book.
Yeah, if there's a fan favorite on a sports team, maybe it's like the most liked player on the team.
Right. Or a fan favorite film by a certain director.
Mm-hmm. And the word transcends means to, it goes through and goes beyond. So you can think about something that transcends generations, like, a music group like the Beatles, for instance.
Yeah, good example.
There are many people today who still listen to the Beatles, new generations, people who are, like middle schoolers today will still listen to the Beatles and sing and know their songs and know their lyrics. They can still connect with it. So their music is music that transcends generations.
Right. Doesn't matter what time period it is, people always love it.
Yeah, or even like Beethoven or Bach. Like today, we're still listening to them. There's still orchestras that are performing their work, and that we go and listen to.
Absolutely. They go on to say that the romance novel was written by Jane Austen in 1813. So this is a category, romance novel, right? And it's really just a book about love.
The intro says Mr. Bennet of the Longbourn estate has 5 daughters, but his property is entailed and cannot be inherited by any of his daughters. So this is a legal term, and if a property is entailed, it means that it limits the passage of inheritance. It's predetermined, the order of succession. So when this person dies, that basically they can't give the property to their children. They can't just pass it on to anybody.
Right, and I think there's also some restrictions on the sale of the property as well. Continuing off what you said, it leads us to our next word, being inherited. As they said, it cannot be inherited by any of his daughters. So to inherit something is to receive something as an heir, right, from a previous owner. So again, meaning that someone has passed away and you come into possession of this thing. In this case, it would be property.
And a person doesn't always have to pass away in order to inherit something. What's coming to mind right now is, a wedding ring, maybe like a grandmother's wedding ring that, that's been in the family. So now when it's time for someone else to get married, maybe they can give that same wedding ring because it has importance to the family, to their, hopefully new wife. But maybe the grandmother's still around. She's not dead yet.
That's true. No, it is common to inherit jewelry, these kinds of heirlooms from people in your family who have not yet passed away. The introduction continues by saying, his wife has no fortune, so it is imperative that at least one of the girls marries well in order to support the others upon his death. So this word imperative, when something is imperative, it is crucial. Something must happen, right? You can think of it as being absolutely necessary. You might hear your boss say that it is imperative that you finish this assignment today. Otherwise something might not happen, so you must complete it.
Yeah, necessary and required to get that done. As we go on, it says, the novel revolves around the importance of marrying for love. So if something revolves around something, it means it's centered around it. You might hear the expression of being self-centered, where a person believes the world revolves around them.
Right. Good example.
So in this case, it's saying that the novel is constantly coming back to the importance of marrying for love. It's saying this is the main idea. Everything in the book goes around and is circled around this main theme.
All right. Now why don't we have a listen to the quotes? Quote 1. Nothing is more deceitful than the appearance of humility. It is often only carelessness of opinion, and sometimes an indirect boast. Quote 2. I declare after all there is no enjoyment like reading. How much sooner one tires of anything than of a book. When I have a house of my own, I shall be miserable if I have not an excellent library. Quote 3. She was convinced that she could have been happy with him when it was no longer likely they should meet. In the first quote, they say, it is often only carelessness of opinion and sometimes an indirect boast. So this phrase, indirect boast, has two words which we can look at. The first one being indirect. And when something is indirect, just means that it's not direct. And boast, what does boast mean?
To boast is generally to show yourself as bigger than other things or other people. And it's also to brag, so to talk yourself up and make yourself look pretty impressive.
Exactly. When we put these two words together, it means to not directly brag or, talk up something.
So an example of an indirect boast would be somebody who, maybe does good deeds, but then they need to tell everybody about it to tell them and show them that they did good deeds. So it wasn't for the fact or for the sake of, being a good person. If you're doing that, they're like trying to show off, to show people, oh, look at how nice of a person, how good I am.
Right, exactly. It's indirect because they're not saying that directly, but they're saying all these other things really to just emphasize that they do this volunteer work.
Mm-hmm. So in our second quote, it says, when I have a house of my own, I shall be miserable if I have not an excellent library. So here when it says miserable, it means kind of, manifesting misery, deeply unhappy.
Right. When someone or a situation is miserable, it's really kind of negative, depressing, just awful in some ways. You might say, the weather today is just miserable, and it's just maybe it's pouring rain or it's snowing really hard or cold.
Mm-hmm. Not really pleasant.
Mm-hmm.
And so in this case, they're saying that they will be really, really unhappy and kind of depressed if this house doesn't have an excellent library.
Let's now have a listen to the summary. Summary. Pride and Prejudice is a novel that centers around love and romance set in an era where love courting was an essential aspect of society and defined interactions between men and women. Many readers find the novel to be enchanting, quintessentially filled with manners, fine moral intelligence, and subtle psychological insight. So in the summary, they start out by saying that the book is set in an era where love courting was an essential aspect of society and defined interactions between men and women. Interactions mean that there is action going both ways or in multiple ways. You could have interactions by dealing with someone physically, by communicating with someone, just dealing with someone or something.
Yeah, you can think about the different ways in which you interact with different people. So the way you interact with, a parent will be different than the way you interact with somebody who is running the cash register at the supermarket.
Yeah, good point.
And in this case, they're talking specifically about the interactions between men and women. Our summary finishes by saying, many readers find the novel to be enchanting, quintessentially filled with manners, fine moral intelligence, and subtle psychological insight. So enchanting means charming and attractive. You might think about a princess in a fairy tale as enchanting because she's very attractive, very beautiful, and she's charming. Everybody likes her, and she gets on well with everyone.
Yeah, exactly. And this word is kind of a whimsical, playful word that you'll read or hear in stories. Less used in real life, but still something good to know. Afterwards, they say quintessentially. So when something is quintessential, it represents the most perfect or pure or kind of best in its class or category.
Yeah, the essential.
Yes. For example, you might hear a food critic say that this is quintessentially the best meal I have ever had. So within the category of food, this one is the best or the most perfect that they've had.
And at the end where it says subtle psychological insight. So subtle means not obvious. It's not direct.
Right. It's more discreet.
So when it comes time for, a holiday season where people are expecting to get, gifts or packages, someone might be subtle in the ways they tell other people what they want. For instance, if somebody wanted a new car, they might show show the person that they're hoping might get them that new car, oh, check out this car. It's so great. Do you see all these different features and the color? And like, you know why it's so much better than the last model? And, oh, I would be so happy if it'd be so cool if we had one of these things.
Right, exactly. You're kind of hinting at it, right? You're not saying, I want this, because that would be obvious. But to subtly do something would say, to drop hints, oh, I really like that new model of the car that came out. Or, my car is really kind of crashing down. Small things like that. Well, we hope you guys enjoyed this lesson on Pride and Prejudice. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time.
Catch you next time.